Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us, wherever you're joining us, around the world at goodlifetelevision.org, at YouTube, and all these different platforms. And of course, all of you in Santa Barbara, California, joining us at TV Santa Barbara. We're so glad you're with us. You can also find us, many of you know, at all the podcast platforms. You just search under Good Life Conversations. And you can, if you're a podcast person and you want to work out and listen to some great interviews, you can do that. But we've had so many great guests, so much inspiration, so many overcomers and entrepreneurs and dreamers and doers and people from all walks of life, really interesting people. We have a really interesting one today. I'm really excited about my guest to welcome Emmanuel Itier. Welcome.
Hello, my friend.
Thank you for coming. It's great to have you. So this is a very interesting person. Emmanuel has been a film producer, award-winning film producer. He's also had an involvement in charities. He's had an involvement in the political world. He's very well versed on many subjects, I guess you could say. He's recently joined the World Council of Wisdom, which I want to talk about. Grew up in France, and then came to the United States 30 years ago. But so let's start there. Talk about growing up in France, and then what brought you here.
Well, basically, I grew up in France, but also abroad. My dad was a doctor in the French Navy. So I was very lucky at an early age to grow up in the world. And I think when you are a kid and you grow up in the world, your consciousness already blossoms into something else.
Right.
It goes beyond the me, myself, and I, and the me, myself, and we. So I grew up in New Caledonia. I spent a few years when I was 8 to 10. My dad was there stationed. And then we came back, and we took our time to come back. So we spent time in Indonesia, in Australia, and then finally back to France. So I always felt, obviously by the accent, I'm French. You know,
Right.
I'm not gonna deny it. I'm French. Right, you're right. But I really feel like a citizen of the world,
Yeah.
a citizen of the planet. Then by pure fluke, I met a woman on the plane. She was American. And I decided, why not? You know, I'm really a glutton for life. I love to explore everything, new food, new religion, new culture. So I thought, hey, it's a new challenge. Let's see what America is about. So I've been living back and forth now for 35 years between Santa Barbara, where we are right now,
Right.
and France. You know, I've got a house in a small town south of Paris. And I've been spending my time trying to connect the dot, trying to understand what makes us so great, because we are great.
Right.
We are geniuses.
Right.
I'm so tired of people pointing the finger at what is bad about us or
Right.
flaws,
Right.
you know, oh, you're this and that. Yeah,
Right.
we are all this and that.
Right.
But what do we do with this and that?
Right.
You know, there is a saying, I think, therefore I am, and I always say, therefore I do. And I'm focusing on the doing. How do we connect your doing with my doing? And how does that create a different universe? Something that's expanding our mind, our possibilities. So that's what I've been doing for the last 35 years.
Good.
And America gave me something great I didn't have as a Frenchman, because again, I think therefore I am, if you stay stuck in that, you just recycle. You just, it's an endless conversation with yourself. And you need to go to the doing. And
Right.
America is a little bit like the Nike commercial, just do it.
Right.
You know, so I think if you combine both civilization, and by the way, we've always been brothers, you know, thanks to us and Lafayette, you got freed from, the Kingdom of England, and you become independent. And then thanks to you, we got rid of Hitler. So thank you, and thank you back.
It's a win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are partners.
Right.
That's the thing. We are all in relationship. We're all partners.
Yeah.
So what are we doing today? I don't understand. Why the war? Why the misery? Why the crisis?
Right.
There is an abundance of everything. There is plenty of water, plenty of energy, plenty of money. Money grows on trees.
Right.
That's a new reality. Money
right.
is everywhere.
Yeah.
Geniuses are everywhere.
Right.
But what we don't have is conscious, spiritual leaders who understand that we are one people, one planet.
Yes.
We are all interconnected, all interdependent.
Yes.
And quantum physics shows that. We are an intertwined dance of molecules.
Yes.
But again, conscious spiritual leaders, we don't have that.
Yes.
Conscious that it's one people and planet. And spiritual, you have to explain the word, because people are like, oh, they're going to talk about religion. Well, first, why not? You know, religion is a beautiful thing. But spiritual comes from espiritu. And espiritu is a Latin word that means the breath. We are all breathing.
Yeah.
We all need each other oxygen.
Yeah, right.
You know, I give you oxygen, you give it back to me.
Right.
So let's focus on that, about that beautiful harmony, that beautiful dance of oxygen, of our molecules, and let's build a planet of peace and love. It's possible, but it's about, I think, therefore I am, therefore let's do it.
Thank you for joining us. Why don't we get to the deep stuff now? Well, yes, I was reading, I don't know if it was Proverbs or Psalm in the scripture the other day, I was reading somewhere where it talks about hard work always yields a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. When you're talking about doing, and you're talking, and sometimes I think, you know, we're waiting for the car to drive itself. You know, well, we need to pull out, you know, and you're a doer. That's been kind of your, seems like mode of operating. Why film? Talk about that.
So why film, and in particular why documentary? Because that's what I've been filming for the last 15 years around the world. I pick up a crazy subject, God, women, politics, economics, and I just surrender to the planet, travel with my cameraman, meet Nobel Peace Laureate, activists, regular Joe and Jane, and I'm trying to understand us. How can we be that perfect puzzle that we are, but again, we are not connecting all the pieces together. And why film and documentary? Because it's a real political platform in the sense of, again, let's explain words. Words are very important if you understand them. Yeah. And a lot of our politicians or anybody are sometimes using words and they don't understand what they mean. Well, politic comes from politis, which means for the people. And so documentaries are really a political platform for a filmmaker. With that type of movie, you can really express your thoughts and put them into action. Yeah. You know, I work on many of my movies with Sharon Stone, and I remember the first movie I finished, small subject, God. It's called The Invocation, with Deepak Chopra, the Dalai Lama, Desmond Tutu, and Sharon Stone did the narration and became my partner in the course of making that movie. And at the end, she said, you know, peace is great, but peace is a dead word. You know, what we need is to be in action. So she closed the movie by saying, let's become peace in action. Yeah. And I love that sentence, you know, because that's our duty as human beings. We need to be in action. We need to move. And that doesn't mean, you know, all the time overreacting and overacting and overdoing. You need to pause, you need to think and therefore be, but you need to put your thought in action at some point, because if not, there are dead words in a dead book. So, you know, look at the scripture. You are talking about the Bible. It's a great book, but nobody is really putting it in action. They just stay stuck in the book. No, leave it. Right. This is just, you know, the platform for life, one of the platforms for life. Right. You know, I mean, and religion, same thing. Religion comes from two Latin words, religare and religare. Religare is a notion of binding together, coming together, which if you think about the meaning of religion, that's that. And religare is about transcending and rereading. So it's about becoming something else, becoming one. That's a notion of oneness. Again, and then after you can go call it God, Buddha, Allah. I don't care. It's that feeling and realization that we are one. We are one into action eventually. Good action or bad action. The choice is yours. I'm not here to judge. Yeah. But be careful about what you do, your choices. Yeah. So you're saying that the root word there refers to a oneness, a coming together. Coming together. Well, and also amazing. Transcending, rereading, you know, transcending, elevating yourself. Yeah. And if you think about it, it's that. If you think about God, it's that too. You know, I mean, there is no definition of God. I am who I am, I am. That's what supposedly God said to Moses in Exodus 2, I think. Great, but that proves the point. That is by action, you know, and Moses come back and liberates the Jews from Egypt. So it's right there. And I feel we are actually, it's interesting. It just come to my mind as we speak, and which is the proof that speaking really liberates your mind and put it in action and new thoughts come. But we are in a new exodus, I feel. We need to be led to the new promised land. The new promised land is not a place. It's a mindset. I think the new challenge of the 21st century is when we're going to free the mind, when we're going to tell people, you are a beautiful genius. I love you. You can do anything you want. Right. Let's figure it out together. Yeah. I am because we are. I am because we are. I am because we are. Yeah. That's that realization. That's the new exodus. That's so we can move forward as one people, one planet. Have you written like a book? I'm writing a book right now called Me, Myself, and We. But everything I'm saying is kind of in the 6-7 feature that I did right now, the documentaries. So it's there. But now I'm putting it to a book, and the book, Me, Myself, and We, is going to talk about that, but more deeply, it's going to talk about what is relationship, because I think we are at this point in our history because we have fell out of relationship, and especially with that beautiful, horrible device. Beautiful because, again, we can type the etymology of a word, like religion, and we get it. But then horrible because our 17-year-old son is harassed at night by drug dealers, girls who are a little bit promiscuous, or boys, whatever, I don't even know. You know, it's a double-edged sword. But I think that's the point. We have fell out of relationship. What is relationship? Here's my theory. I think relationship is about three circle of the soul, the spirit, the circle of the body, and the circle of fate and destiny. Circle because what goes around comes around. Again, we need to circulate the ideas. We need to have the energy circulate. Circle of the soul, the spirit, the mind is really all that intellectual, spiritual breath exchange, what we're doing right now. We need that. I need to stimulate your neurons and vice versa. And that's how we grow mentally and how we free our mind. Very important circle. Second circle is circle of body. And as a Frenchman, people say, oh yeah, sex. No, sex is great. Don't get me wrong. That's how we create life, men and women. But, you know, it's about the energy, the molecules, the quantum physics, again, the reality that we are intertwined molecules, and that, how we are one body. One soul, one body, one spirit, one body. And what do we do with that, the action? Well, that's the fate and the destiny. I think we're all born with a fate. Didn't choose to be Dean, with flaws, with qualities, with challenges. Same thing with me. By the way, all our paths of life are more the same. We are all sick, like Freud said, only degrees of sickness separate us from each other. But it's that fate, what do we do with it? You know, so I'm an alcoholic. What do I do with it? Do I go and, like your friend Tony, die of horrible death? Or do I fight and turn it into a beautiful destiny? And that's that. You know, we have a choice. Either we surrender to our fate or we fight. And we build a destiny. And I think we can build it together, where we are all key, important, complementary part of this beautiful puzzle. Because again, we are all unique specimens. My genius is different than yours. It's not in competition. It cannot be. I am Emmanuel, you're Dean. But together, look at this conversation. It's not me speaking, it's that is speaking. That process. Me, myself, and I is a lazy French, old, drunk bulldog. That's it. That's who I am truly. I become the genius when I'm with Dean, with a presence, with a presence, and that's the presence of the divine. That's the presence of oneness.
That's right. Good grief. Where do I go from there?
We have 2 hours, right?
Relationship, I mean, relationship makes the world go around for sure. And it is amazing how, because I think you're so right about the technology taking us inward, taking us, moving towards isolation. And just like any addiction does. Any addiction moves us towards isolation. That's a terrible place to be, that isolation. This, the collaboration, the community, the spurring each other on so that I can help you become your best self and you can help me become, that's the genius, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's turning the addiction in passion.
And
again, because addiction is about me, myself, and I. Oh, I'm sorry for myself, I'm going to get drunk. Okay, me, myself, and I, self-destroying. The passion is when you realize that, but you're like, you know what, I'm going beyond. I'm going to connect with Him. I'm going to sacrifice that selfishness and turn it into an action of beauty, an action of doing, an action of divine action. You know, again, it's a little bit the metaphor of Christ on the cross. You know, that's that. It's the making one, going beyond. Okay, I failed dealing with these crazy Romans and crazy rabbis, extremists. You know what? Maybe I can. My thoughts, my body can survive by surrendering to oneness. And look at it. So I think it's about that. It's about really killing the selfish man within and letting the beautiful Messiah, leader that we are all, healer that we are all, and surrendering that to the world and making one with the world.
Oh, that's so good. Do you have you talk about invocation. What's another documentary film you could tell us about?
By the way, Invocation, which was the first movie, which is about God, the reason it's called the Invocation is because the word God is actually a verb. It comes from a all pan-Germano-European, Indo-European verb, which means to invoke. And it's really that. Right now we're invoking life. Right now we're invoking God. Right. Right now we're being God. Again, it's all is God and God is all. It's not a dude in the clouds more than a flower. It's all. That's why there is no fight at the end. It's like, okay, because it's all the divine, it's all life, it's all existence. Let's work with all these tools and let's stop killing each other. For what? For focusing on the detail because you understand that word in the Bible this way or that way, and so therefore you become a Protestant or a Catholic.
Yeah.
It's silly. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, there's 1,000 reasons to fight.
But they are wrong reasons.
And we're finding them all.
They are wrong reasons because ultimately, again, we are dependent on each other. Like, look at the war right now that is, spreading from Ukraine to all over the world because obviously we are suffering from it indirectly and directly with inflation, with crises of all sorts. Right. Again, it's because we refuse to be in a relationship. We think we are better than the other. Yeah, no, right. Together we're great.
Yeah, right.
Alone we are idiots, really.
Right.
Eventually. We are lonely idiots. So it's like, no, on the contrary, put it in common.
And that's humility too. I had a Catholic priest, longtime friend of my dad's, tell me one time, he said, Dean, I think I've identified the most dangerous words in the English language. I was curious. He said, I'm better than you. If we put that one down, what you just described, that humility, that's saying, I'm not better than you. I'm me, you're you,
And that's what our leaders, again, let's go back to our leaders because sadly they really inspire the rest of the pyramid because we're still in a very class pyramidal society from the time of the pharaohs and the king. And it's still the same. It's about all these guys saying, I'm better than you. I'm going to show you. Right. Me first, you after.
That's right. Top down.
Whoa. Right. You are because we are. What are you talking about?
Right.
So you can be a big mouth and try to bully me, right. But you need me. For this show to work, we need a Dean and we need an Emmanuel.
Yeah, that's right. That's so good. Okay, so I want to get to a little bit into leadership in a second, but we don't do a lot of news on this program, but I had this when I woke up this morning and I saw this article. I wanted to ask you about it. Mikhail Gorbachev died yesterday. A transformative figure in many respects in the last century, and I wanted to just ask you about him. If you had any thoughts, I didn't prep you on this, but I'd like to ask you about Mikhail Gorbachev.
More than thoughts, I've got stories. So in the process of making all these documentaries, after the Invocation, which was about God, I realized really the true root of evil on earth has been this abuse of the patriarchal society that we've been raised into for the last 3,000 years. How the patriarch killed the feminine within and therefore the imbalance. So I made a movie on women. For 3 years I surrendered myself to women. Again, I'm a Frenchman, it's not too hard. But still, trust me, as a Frenchman, I'm a macho asshole, and so it is hard. So I had to, again, domesticate myself, but I did it. And by doing that, I did it also, again, with Sharon Stone. Little story, we ended up having her being nominated for the Nobel Peace Summit Award in Warsaw in 2013 in Poland. She told me, well, come with me, Emmanuel, and partly I'm getting that award because of you. Maybe one day you'll have it. I'm like, okay, why not? Again, it's a tool for building more stuff. So anyway, we arrived there, and Mikhail Gorbachev was supposed to be there. We had everybody, Desmond Tutu and Dalai Lama and all the Nobel Merit Magua. Some of them are in my documentaries. And I was really keen very curious about meeting Gorbachev because, I'm 55. Therefore, when all these things happened, I was a teenager. I was starting to realize, oh, Emmanuel exists, but there is another world.
Yeah,
You should pay attention to what's going on. It has an effect on you sooner or later. And so I was very curious. And poor guy starting to fall sick. And he has fallen sick since his death yesterday, which strangely I felt very sad about it, because he was the right leader. Again, somebody who fought beyond the idea of the great Russia, the great Soviet Union.
Right.
It's like, again, my country is isolated. How can I unite it to, by the way, we should have seen it. After the Second World War, we created the Society of Nations, which became the United Nations. So in theory, the world has been united since the end of the Second War. But it has not in practical reality. Why? Because all leaders just deny that. And even worse, you have 5 countries who have total vetoes on any decision of the UN. The US, France, Russia, China, and UK. Shame on them. If it is a united world, nobody can have a right of veto on any decision. It's a majority rule. That's it, whether you want it or not. So anyway, I was very sad because I was with Sharon. The spirit of Mikhail Gorbachev was really floating in that room. It was beautiful. Talk about a spiritual experience, being enlightened by all these leaders of the free world. And he wasn't there, But I almost met him a second time when I did another documentary called We the People, a Re-Evolution of Economics and Politics. And I was very interested, again, about understanding politics for the people, and economia, the management of the resources. And if really we have failed, again, it's because we haven't linked one with the other. Again, it's relationship.
Yeah.
And Mikhail Gorbachev was about that. He was about relationship. He was a healer. He was a messiah of some sort. He really tried to preach a new way of conducting life between Russia and the rest of the world, Soviet Union.
Right.
So, and now we're going reverse with Putin, who is just totally out of his mind. And it's really out of his mind because, dude, you have all that gas, all that vodka, caviar, wheat, and you need us as consumers, and you created all that madness. I mean, this is crazy.
Right.
So crazy people, either we lock them or we get rid of them.
And this has happened like in 15 years. I mean, Putin, when Boris Yeltsin died, there was state funeral, the whole thing. U.S. presidents were there, of course, and Putin. I mean, it was a different. They're not even going to have a state funeral for Mikhail Gorbachev.
Insane.
And I was thinking,
Putin
man, the
is
world.
Not going,
No, he stopped by the hospital and dropped off some flowers. Is what the official state statement was that Putin stopped by the hospital.
How can you wake up in a world where every second somebody dies for the wrong reason? War, poverty, famine, whatever. And you still pretend you're the master of the world?
Yeah, right.
What's wrong with you? If you are that sick, we need to get rid of you.
It illustrates to me the power. Well, number one, the power of relationship. We could talk about Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev sometime because that's a fascinating conversation by itself.
Absolutely.
And the relationship that happened there. He was here in 1992. Yep. Gorbachev was right up here in the mountains. But that relationship. But then this morning, as I was reading all about this, I was struck by the power of the power of our human leaders, whether we get it right or we get it wrong. Look what Mikhail Gorbachev did. One man, right? And then now look what's happening right now.
One man.
One man. One man.
Again, you have choices to do good or to do evil.
Yeah.
Why would you do evil? Yeah. I don't get it. What's your business plan? Because on top of that, we know you're a greedy bastard. Right. So what's your plan? I don't get it. What do you think is going to happen to you, Putin? If he was sitting there, I'm like, dude, you know where it's going?
Right.
You're going to be gone sooner or later.
Right. And
why?
The callousness, like in relationship to human suffering, like Mikhail Gorbachev said, the statement that they put out, I love talking a little politics, by the way. Sorry, this is
Everything
kind of my...
is politics.
Okay,
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Rotarian, and every time I go to a Rotary meeting, they're like, "Oh, Emmanuel, don't talk about politics." I'm like, "Okay, so what are we going to talk about?" Everything is because again, politics for the people.
Yeah.
So everything is politics.
Yeah. So you have a guy. So we're talking about this contrast, Gorbachev and Putin. So we have a guy right now, Putin, who's doing what he's doing, and then. And has a certain approach towards humanity, human suffering. And then you have this Mikhail Gorbachev, who the statement that they released after the Ukraine invasion was, there's nothing more precious, valuable on earth than human life. You have that perspective, and then you have this other. And the leadership, everything rises and falls, I still believe, at one level on leadership. I mean, these are really important decisions we make, because look what we can end up with, right? The consequences.
Look at us right now.
Yeah.
It's sinking. The ship is sinking.
Right.
And we're all on the same ship.
And we're all on the ship.
That's the thing. It's like, dude, you are in the same ship as us.
Right.
We fall, Putin, you fall.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. Right.
Can't you stop it? Because sooner or later, you'll be like us.
Yeah. Right.
Gone.
Man, we only have
But again, it's what I call the madness of genius, which is another documentary I'm gonna do, and it's like what goes through the head of a guy like Putin, which is obviously genius. I mean, a mediocre KGB agent that becomes this totalitarian monster, wannabe master of the universe. That's pure genius, pure evil genius.
Right.
But that's genius. But obviously, it's a mad genius. So what happened in that mind that it gets so broken, so fractured, that it cannot see anything else but me, myself, and I?
Yeah, right.
Even so, until now, to get to that point, he had seen the me, myself, and we. And then there is a disconnection again. Something just snapped within.
Yeah, right.
Something.
Yeah.
You know, it's and usually, you you had my good friend Dr. Smilovitz last week, and it goes back to that. It goes back to the mind, and usually to childhood. What happened in your childhood? And we know little about Putin, but I'm sure and certain that he had problem in his childhood. He had problem of relationship with his family, with parents, with the KGB and his peers, and that created somebody that little by little got disconnected within.
Yeah.
And at one point you fall into total insanity. And right now we're not dealing with even madness. We're dealing with insanity, which is the next step. That's when it's, I think, totally irreversible. That's where I don't think there is no treatment other than a bullet in the head. And it's horrible to say that, but at one point you have to think about the big picture. Do I sacrifice one person for humanity? Which, by the way, is again the message of the Christ. Do I let all my disciples die, or do I surrender and avoid a bloodbath, which he could have been when he got arrested, in the Garden of Olives? No. The dude realized, you know what? I'm bigger than all these morons. Take me.
Right.
And sadly, Putin doesn't realize you should sacrifice yourself for Russia. If you love Russia, stop.
I don't think he loves Russia.
No, of course he won't. So that means at the end, we're going to have to do the job. Going to have to do the cleaning. Again.
Yeah, human history, we tend to repeat this.
But it's our own fault because we are not careful. I think we could have prevented that 10, 20. So it's a fault of Biden, of Obama, of Trump, because they have not nurtured this relationship. We know they are difficult relationships. But your duty as a president, just pretend they are your best friend. Just tell them, I love you, Putin. That must be hard, Just say it.
Right.
You're going to feel strange about it, but you're going to feel like, wow, I'm really fucking with his mind. It's going to work. And sometimes that's that reverse psychology you have to do. I avoided getting into a lot of fight by looking at the dude in front of me and like, come on, look at this fatso. I mean, I'm an insignificant little ant. Really? Dude, come on. Let's get drunk together.
Let's close on that note. What a guy. The Renaissance man, Emmanual Itier. This has been fun. We're going to have to hang out. I don't drink anymore, but we can talk.
Hey, lemonade is fine, you know.
Lemonade.
It's okay. As long as I can have my cigar, it's okay.
I smoke cigars.
That's my Churchill complex.
I love
And on that
cigars.
final note, by the way, reference to Churchill, I think, again, you need to become peace in action. And becoming peace in action, ultimately, for me, is about running for office. So that would be my conclusion. I always invite people to run for office. And running for office can mean any type of office. It's your soccer club, the club of your kids. It's your church. It's even, like me, running for president of France this year, failing, running for Congress of France, failing, but going back at it. And maybe in 5 years being elected. And that interview will be amazing, right?
Are you going to give it another
Of course. I'm 55.
I love it.
I'm giving myself another 20 years, and then I'm opening my bar in a small town of France, and you can come and see me.
I'll come
and
visit.
I will serve you some non-alcoholic wine. And
Perfect.
we'll have some great time.
I
make a croque monsieur.
love this guy. I'm in.
Come on.
I'm in. When's your campaign start, brother?
It's starting now.
Done. You heard it here first at Good Life Television. We're going to, oh man, wouldn't that be great? Thank you.
My pleasure.
What a time. This is the Good Life, my friends. We'll see you next time.